During the argument she screamed, "You're a loser," while her friends watched. The words echoed through the Pearl District gallery I'd helped fund, bouncing off walls displaying art I'd paid for with money from restoring century-old buildings. Standing there in my best shirt among 40 art collectors and industry professionals, I watched 5 years dissolve in front of everyone. I'm Paul, 38, and I restore historic buildings in Portland, a craft I'd spent 15 years perfecting, turning forgotten structures into living history. Simone and I had been together for 5 years, and she'd been living in my craftsman house for the last 3. At 35, she worked as a creative director for a sustainable fashion brand, always talking about elevating consciousness through ethical design. I'd written the check for this gallery opening, $4,500, because I believed in her vision, wanted to support her dreams the way partners do. The evening started well enough with collectors examining her curated pieces, wine flowing, conversations about sustainable art practices. Helena, Simone's colleague, mentioned summer plans while we stood near a sculpture I'd helped transport. "We're thinking about the Greek islands," Helena said. "What about you too?" Simone's face shifted instantly. "Paul wants us to drive around Oregon wine country in his truck," she said, voice dripping with disdain. "Can you imagine? Me, bouncing around in a pickup truck, staying at roadside motels when I could be experiencing the Venice Biennale or documenting street art in Berlin." I kept my voice level, aware of the growing audience. "The Tesla lease payments make international travel challenging right now." That's when everything exploded. "The Tesla lease?" Simone's voice rose sharply. "You're seriously bringing up money at my opening? God, Paul, you're such a pathetic loser." The gallery went silent. You restore old houses like some historical janitor while Helena's boyfriend just closed a Series B funding round. Benjamin over there owns 3 galleries in California. Marcus runs a tech incubator. And here you are, covered in sawdust half the time, thinking your little woodworking projects matter. I stood completely still, watching her unravel 5 years in front of everyone. "I've wasted half a decade waiting for you to become someone impressive, someone worth introducing at events like this without having to explain why you're wearing work boots to a gallery opening." I wasn't wearing work boots. I'd bought new dress shoes specifically for tonight. Your weekend woodworking hobby, those craft beer tastings with your blue-collar nobodies, sitting in your garage workshop like retirement already started. It's embarrassing. You have zero ambition beyond playing with old wood and drinking IPAs with other men who peaked in community college. 40 faces turned between us like spectators at the world's most uncomfortable tennis match. I noticed Helena's expression shifting from surprise to horror, Benjamin pulling out his phone, several other guests doing the same. Simone wasn't finished. "Do you know what it's like explaining to people that my boyfriend of 5 years still drives the same truck, still works with his hands like we're living in 1890, still thinks a romantic evening involves showing me dovetail joints he carved?" She gestured around the gallery. "This is culture, Paul. This is refinement. This is what matters. Not your obsession with preserving buildings nobody cares about except history nerds and city preservationists who probably make less than you do." The silence that followed felt endless. I looked at Simone for a long moment, then said calmly, "You're absolutely right about everything." I collected my keys and wallet from the coat check, nodded politely to Helena who mouthed, "I'm sorry," and walked out of the gallery into the Portland drizzle. The drive to Kenneth's loft took 15 minutes. During which my phone exploded with notifications, 89 missed calls and messages I didn't bother reading. Kenneth, my business partner in restoration work, opened his door without questions, just handed me a beer and pointed to his spare room. "Gallery went that well?" he asked dryly. Simone decided to publicly announce I'm a pathetic loser in front of 40 industry professionals, I said, showing him my silenced phone still lighting up constantly. The messages started as desperate apologies. I was drunk, stressed about the show, didn't mean any of it. By midnight they'd shifted to anger. "You abandoned me at my own opening. That's emotional abuse. Everyone thinks you're unstable for just leaving." By morning, accusations. "You've traumatized me, you're manipulative. This is gaslighting." I spent Sunday at Kenneth's drafting table, finally doing something I'd considered for years, filing paperwork for my independent restoration consulting firm. Simone had always dismissed this idea as playing with old wood, but I had 12 former clients who'd been asking me to work directly with them for months. Monday morning, I drove to my house at 6 a.m., knowing Simone would be at her yoga class. The locksmith, an old client whose Victorian I'd restored, changed everything within an hour. "Finally kicking out a bad tenant?" he asked. "Something like that," I replied. I'd already contacted my attorney cousin who confirmed what I suspected. Simone's name appeared nowhere on the deed, mortgage, or any legal documents. She was legally my guest, nothing more. 3 years of living rent-free in my inherited craftsman house had given her 0 property claims, despite her assumptions otherwise. When she arrived at Kenneth's workplace that afternoon, demanding we talk like adults, I stayed in the workshop's back office. "Tell her I have nothing to discuss," I told Kenneth. She made her position crystal clear to 40 witnesses. Kenneth returned looking amused. "She says you're stealing her home, that she has squatter's rights, that she'll sue for emotional damages and unlawful eviction." I pulled up the audio on my phone. Benjamin had sent me his recording from the gallery, crystal clear audio of Simone's entire rant. "Tell her several people recorded her speech. If she wants to discuss legal matters, she can contact my attorney." She tried another approach that evening, texting from her friend's phone about sacrificing career opportunities to support my business, giving up gallery positions in New York and Los Angeles to stay with me. I responded with bank statements showing I'd paid 100% of household expenses, mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, while her $70,000 salary went entirely to designer purchases, Tesla lease payments, personal trainer sessions, and a life coaching certification she never completed. The receipts painted a clear picture: $38,000 of my money supporting her lifestyle last year alone, while she posted on Instagram about being a self-made creative entrepreneur. Her final message that night claimed she'd invested emotionally in our relationship, that emotional labor deserved compensation, that I owed her for 5 years of supporting my basic lifestyle. I didn't respond, just forwarded everything to my cousin for documentation. Tuesday morning, I started reaching out to those 12 potential clients. By noon, I had 4 signed contracts for restoration consultancy, including a historic church renovation that would pay more than 3 months at my current job. Cornerstone Heritage Restoration was officially born, something I'd dreamed about since apprenticing at 23. The name came to me while stripping paint from a Victorian doorframe, building on what endures, preserving what matters. Simone would have hated it, called it aggressively working class, but that was exactly the point. Wednesday afternoon, Simone returned with reinforcements: her father Douglas, younger brother Felix, and 4 friends including Helena, pulling up in 2 cars like some kind of intervention squad. They stood on my porch while Simone pounded on the door she no longer had keys for. "Paul, we need to discuss this like mature adults," Douglas called out, using his corporate executive voice. I opened the door but stood firmly in the doorway. "There's nothing to discuss." Simone made her feelings clear at the gallery. "She's collected her belongings and we're done." Simone pushed past her father. "I need my furniture, my record player, my kitchen appliances, the artwork from the living room." I pulled out my phone, opening the folder I'd prepared Monday night. The dining set, receipt from August 2019, 8 months before we met. The record player, purchased November 2017 at an estate sale, full year before we met. Kitchen appliances, wedding gifts from my sister in 2015. I scrolled through photo after photo. The artwork you're claiming includes 3 pieces my grandmother painted and 2 I bought at the Rebuilding Center fundraiser in 2018. Felix shifted uncomfortably. "Come on, man, some of this stuff has to be Simone's." I showed him another receipt. "Your sister contributed exactly 3 items to this house: a meditation cushion, a succulent that died, and a vision board that's still in the garage if she wants it." Helena looked increasingly uncomfortable as I methodically destroyed each claim. The vintage bar cart Simone called ours, inherited from my uncle. The Turkish rug, bought on a restoration job before we'd even met. The copper cookware, payment from a client whose restaurant I'd restored. "This is financial abuse," Simone suddenly announced. I'm pregnant, Paul. I was going to tell you at the gallery before everything went wrong. You're evicting a pregnant woman from her home. The group went silent. Douglas's face showed genuine surprise. Clearly this was news to him. But Felix, sweet stupid Felix, immediately destroyed her story. Simone, you literally had that procedure 10 days ago. Mom drove you to the clinic because you said you couldn't risk pregnancy affecting your gallery opening. The silence stretched until I broke it. There's something else everyone should know. I pulled up credit card statements on my phone. 6 weeks ago, San Francisco Art Fair. Simone told me she needed her own room for networking space, said sharing would look unprofessional. The Fairmont Hotel records show she shared a suite with Lucas Chin, the gallery owner she was supposedly meeting for career advancement. Helena gasped. Lucas? The one from Pacific Heights Gallery. Simone's face went white. That was a professional arrangement. We needed workspace for portfolio reviews. I showed them the room service charges. Champagne and oysters at 2 a.m. is portfolio review? The spa couple's massage on checkout morning. Douglas stepped back from his daughter. Simone, what the hell is this? She turned on me with pure venom. You went through my credit cards? That's illegal. You used my credit card for the trip, remember? Said yours was maxed out from gallery preparations. I showed Douglas the statement. I paid for my girlfriend's romantic getaway with another man. $4,000 including flights I supposedly couldn't afford for our anniversary. Her support group began dissolving. Helena quietly approached me. Paul, I'm deeply sorry. I had no idea about any of this. She told us you were financially controlling, that you monitored her spending and isolated her from opportunities. Her spending was never restricted, I replied. She had complete freedom with her own money. I just stopped supplementing it with mine after discovering Lucas. One by one, they began leaving. Douglas lingered, staring at his daughter with an expression I'd never seen, pure disappointment mixed with embarrassment. You told me he was abusive, he said quietly. You said he controlled your finances, limited your career growth, made you feel small. Simone tried one last manipulation. He records our conversations. He documents everything. Who does that except someone planning to abandon their partner? Someone who noticed $8,000 in unexplained charges over 6 months, I answered. Someone whose girlfriend started taking mysterious business trips that never resulted in any actual business. Felix grabbed his sister's arm. We're leaving. Now. As they walked away, Helena turned back. Paul, my boyfriend needs restoration work on his family's Victorian in Astoria. Can I give him your number? Even in defeat, Simone couldn't resist the last word. You'll regret this, she called from the car. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Within 3 hours, her Instagram filled with posts about escaping toxic situations, recognizing covert narcissism, and finding strength after financial coercion. Carefully curated photos from our relationship appeared with captions about surviving emotional manipulation and rebuilding after systematic abuse. The woman who'd called me a pathetic loser in front of 40 people was now painting herself as my victim, and 3,200 followers were buying it. Thursday morning, my supervisor at the restoration company called me into his office looking concerned but skeptical. Paul, we received an anonymous complaint about you stealing materials from job sites. Complete bullshit obviously, I've already verified inventory, but I wanted you to know someone's trying to cause problems for you. I knew exactly who that someone was. Simone's social media campaign had gained initial traction with her followers, sending supportive messages about surviving financial abuse and escaping toxic masculinity. But then something beautiful happened. 7 gallery attendees decided they'd seen enough. Benjamin posted first, sharing his video with a simple caption. Since there's discussion about what happened at the gallery, here's the unedited footage. Judge for yourself who the toxic one was. The video showed everything in brutal clarity, me standing quietly in my dress shirt while Simone, clearly intoxicated on free champagne, gestured wildly and called me a pathetic loser, whose work was historical janitor stuff. You could hear other guests gasping, see them pulling out phones, watch Helena's face transform from confusion to horror. The moment where I calmly said, "You're absolutely right about everything," and walked out with complete dignity while Simone screamed after me became the clip everyone shared. Helena commented underneath, "Simone, we all witnessed your cruelty that night. This revisionist narrative you're spinning is textbook gaslighting. Paul funded your entire show and you humiliated him for not being rich enough." Another guest named Marcus wrote, "Imagine calling someone a loser while driving his Tesla, living in his house rent-free, spending his money on an art show barely anyone attended. The cognitive dissonance is staggering." The third video, posted by a collector named Patricia, captured what happened after I left. Simone spending 20 minutes ranting about my lack of vision, while drinking directly from a wine bottle, claiming she'd been settling for mediocrity and deserved someone who understood true success. The comments section exploded. This woman really called a master craftsman a loser? Do you know how much restoration specialists charge? My Victorian renovation cost $200,000 and the craftsman was booked 2 years out. Another wrote, "She's complaining about someone who preserves history while she makes Instagram posts about consciousness? The delusion is incredible." A Portland architect I'd never met commented, "Paul restored my firm's historic building. His work is featured in Architectural Digest. That's the opposite of being a loser, that's being an artist whose medium happens to be wood and stone." The fashion brand's CEO, Margaret Williams, viewed all 7 videos. Her assistant called me Friday morning. "Mr. Morrison, Ms. Williams would like to speak with you about an incident involving one of our employees. She's concerned about potential damage to our brand's reputation and would appreciate your perspective." I met Margaret at a coffee shop that afternoon. She was exactly what you'd expect from someone running a sustainable fashion brand. Thoughtful, direct, genuinely concerned about values alignment. "Paul, I've seen the videos. Multiple angles, multiple sources. What I witnessed was someone demonstrating values completely antithetical to what our company represents." She pulled out her tablet, showing me Simone's employee profile. She listed inclusive mindset and respect for all vocations as core values during her interview. Then I watch her publicly humiliate someone for being a skilled tradesperson. We market to people who value craftsmanship, authenticity, and ethical treatment of workers. How can we maintain that position while employing someone who clearly holds contempt for the very people who make our products? I stayed factual, showing her the financial records I'd kept. I subsidized Simone's lifestyle for 3 years while she presented herself as financially independent. I'm not sharing this for revenge, I just think you should know who you're employing. Margaret studied the credit card statements showing Simone's business trips that I'd funded, the receipts for professional development courses she'd claimed the company paid for but I'd actually covered. She told us she was independently wealthy, Margaret said quietly. Said her family had property investments, that she worked for creative fulfillment rather than financial need. It affected her salary negotiations, her project selections, even which clients she'd work with. The pattern was clear. Simone had built her entire professional identity on lies, supported by my money while claiming independence. Gallery Connections began severing ties publicly. The Pacific Heights Gallery issued a statement distancing themselves from anyone who demonstrated classist attitudes incompatible with art's democratic spirit. 3 collectors who'd expressed interest in Simone's work withdrew their offers, with one stating, "I don't purchase art from people who disrespect the craftspeople who build the galleries displaying it." By Friday evening, Simone's Instagram had shifted from victim narrative to damage control. The videos had been shared beyond her follower base, reaching Portland's creative community, many of whom knew me professionally or had hired restoration specialists themselves. The woman who'd called me pathetic was learning what actual social consequences looked like, and she was handling it exactly as well as you'd expect, which is to say, not at all. 2 weeks after the gallery incident, at 1:43 a.m., I woke to pounding on my front door and Simone screaming about squatters' rights. She was trying different keys in the lock. Apparently she'd made copies I didn't know about, while yelling that I couldn't legally evict her without 30 days' notice. I called 911 from my bedroom, watching through security camera footage I'd installed Monday as she attempted to jimmy the back door with what looked like a butter knife. The officers arrived within 8 minutes, finding her kicking my garage door. "This is my legal residence," she screamed at them. "I've lived here 3 years. Check the mail, check my driver's license, this address is mine." I came out with a folder I'd been keeping by the door, expecting this exact scenario. "Officer, here's the deed showing sole ownership, mortgage statements in my name only, and this written text message from Ms. Lauren confirming she moved out voluntarily last week." The female officer read Simone's own words. "Fine, I'm getting my things and leaving your pathetic house forever." She looked at Simone. "Ma'am, you confirmed in writing that you vacated the premises. You have no legal standing here. If you don't leave immediately, you'll be arrested for attempted breaking and entering, trespassing, and disturbing the peace." Simone shifted tactics instantly. "He's hiding my property. There are valuable items inside that belong to me." The male officer sighed. "Ma'am, that's a civil matter. File a lawsuit if you believe property was stolen. Right now, you're committing criminal trespass. This is your only warning." As they escorted her to her Tesla, still had 2 months of lease payments apparently, she screamed that I'd orchestrated everything, that this was calculated abuse designed to destroy her life. Monday morning, a courier delivered legal documents from Simone's attorney, someone named Derek Hoffman, who probably took her case on contingency hoping for a quick settlement. The demands were absolutely unhinged: $22,000 for constructive eviction, $12,000 for reputational damages, 50% of my house's appraised value based on common law marriage equivalency, half the value of all my restoration tools as community property, and $36,000 in cohabitation equity credits, representing 3 years of unpaid domestic labor. Kenneth's sister Lauren, an attorney who'd been bartering legal services for custom built-ins, read the demand letter while trying not to laugh. Constructive eviction requires you to have made the space uninhabitable. You changed the locks after she voluntarily left. Common law marriage doesn't exist in Oregon. Community property requires actual marriage. And domestic labor. She pulled up her laptop. "I have her Instagram. 3 years of posts about your cooking, you maintaining the house, you doing literally everything while she did yoga and attended gallery openings." Lauren drafted a 2-sentence response. "Ms. Lauren has no legal claim to any assets or compensation. See attached video evidence of defamation and emotional abuse if she wishes to pursue litigation." She attached the 7 gallery videos as exhibits. Thursday afternoon, Margaret Williams from the fashion brand called me directly. "Paul, I wanted you to know we've terminated Simone's employment effective immediately. The decision came after extensive review of the gallery incident and its implications for our company values. Simone appeared at my job site within 2 hours, mascara streaming, designer outfit disheveled. You got me fired. You vindictive bastard, you couldn't handle rejection so you destroyed my career." My crew stopped working, watching this woman completely unravel in front of a Victorian we were restoring. "Simone, I didn't contact your employer. Your CEO reached out to me after seeing videos that 40 witnesses recorded of your public behavior. I kept my voice professionally calm, aware my workers were recording everything on their phones now. Everyone did after the gallery incident. Those videos were private," she screamed. "You violated my consent by sharing them. I didn't record or share anything. You performed your rant in front of 40 people at a public event. You created your own consequences through choices you made in front of your entire professional network." She tried getting closer, but Kenneth stepped between us. "Ma'am, this is an active construction site. You need to leave before someone calls the police again. This isn't over." Simone shouted. "I'll sue you for everything. Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, interference with employment contracts." Lauren had prepared me for this exact threat. "Simone, truth is an absolute defense against defamation. You publicly called me a pathetic loser while multiple people recorded it. Your employer terminated you for demonstrating values incompatible with their brand. Those are consequences of your own actions, not mine." She stood there shaking, realizing every avenue was closing. The woman who'd been so confident destroying me in public was discovering that actions have consequences, and those consequences don't care about your Instagram follower count or your sustainable fashion credentials. I have nothing now, she said, suddenly switching to tears. No job, no home, no car soon. Are you happy? Is this what you wanted? What I wanted was a partner who respected me. What I got was someone who called me a pathetic loser for being a craftsman. Now you're experiencing what happens when you burn down your own life in front of witnesses. I turned back to my work, listening to her Tesla peel out of the construction site, knowing this wasn't over but feeling oddly calm about whatever came next. 1 month after the gallery disaster, my life had transformed in ways I hadn't imagined possible while living under Simone's constant criticism. Cornerstone Heritage Restoration had secured 8 contracts through pure word of mouth, including the historic courthouse renovation that would net $180,000 over 18 months. I'd reclaimed my craftsman house, stripping away Simone's minimalist sterility and restoring my vintage industrial aesthetic, exposed brick, restored wood, furniture that actually looked like someone lived there. The house felt like home again instead of an Instagram backdrop. I dropped 15 pounds without trying, apparently stress weight from constantly walking on eggshells, and started sleeping through the night for the first time in 2 years. My crew mentioned I laughed more, seemed lighter, actually enjoyed being on job sites again. Through mutual connections in Portland's small creative scene, updates trickled in about Simone's situation. She'd been terminated from the fashion brand for conduct incompatible with company values. Her Tesla had been repossessed after missing 3 payments, and she'd moved back into her father Douglas's Pearl District condo. Her lifestyle blog, Elevated Living, had launched with great fanfare and 412 followers who quickly realized she was just reposting generic mindfulness quotes over stock photos. No sponsorships materialized, no brand partnerships emerged, and the comments section became a wasteland of bot accounts and MLM pitches. Then Helena messaged me privately, "Paul, I need to tell you something that's been eating at me." After you left the gallery, Simone spent 3 hours justifying her behavior to anyone who'd listen. She was drunk and getting worse, claiming you'd been financially controlling, that she'd been planning to leave for months but stayed out of pity. Helena's message continued, but then she slipped up and revealed things that made everyone uncomfortable. She laughed about you covering her credit card debt while she told everyone she was financially independent. Bragged about the trip to San Francisco you paid for while she met with Lucas. When I questioned her behavior, she called me a desperate hanger-on and said my boyfriend would leave me once he realized I was just another basic Portland girl trying to seem artistic. Benjamin tried defending you and she told him his textile business was crafts fair garbage that only tourists would buy. The pattern was clear. Simone hadn't just disrespected me, she held contempt for anyone she considered beneath her imaginary status level. Helena's next message changed everything. My boyfriend Patrick needs his family's century-old estate restored. It's been in his family for generations in Astoria. 6 months of work minimum, and he specifically wants you because of how you handled yourself at the gallery. He said anyone who maintains that much dignity under public attack is someone he can trust with his great-grandfather's legacy. 2 more gallery attendees reached out that week. Patricia Vanderberg owned 3 historic properties along the coast and needed a restoration specialist who understood historical preservation standards. Marcus Chen's family was converting their Victorian into a boutique hotel and wanted someone who could maintain architectural integrity while modernizing for commercial use. Both specifically mentioned they'd been impressed by my composure during Simone's public attack. Anyone who stays that calm under that kind of assault, Patricia said during our consultation, is someone who can handle the stress of restoration work without cutting corners. My business was thriving specifically because of the incident Simone had orchestrated to humiliate me. The courthouse contract alone would have changed everything, but these additional projects meant I could hire 2 full-time craftsmen and an apprentice. Kenneth and I spent evenings in my workshop planning expansion while drinking beer and occasionally laughing about the absurdity of it all. She called you a loser in front of the exact people who'd become your clients, Kenneth said one night. It's like she personally introduced you to your future success while trying to destroy you. The irony wasn't lost on me. Simone's public tantrum had become the best marketing I never asked for. Portland's creative class apparently valued dignity and craftsmanship over Instagram aesthetics and consciousness elevation. Meanwhile, through the professional grapevine, I heard Simone had applied to 17 positions in sustainable fashion, ethical marketing, and creative direction. Every single one had mysteriously gone in another direction after basic social media searches revealed the gallery videos. She'd poisoned her own well so thoroughly that even companies in Seattle and San Francisco knew about the incident. Her father Douglas had given her an ultimatum: find employment within 60 days or start paying market rate rent for the condo. She tried launching a consulting firm called Conscious Creative Solutions, but couldn't land a single client. Turns out publicly humiliating someone who supported you for 3 years doesn't inspire confidence in potential business partners. The woman who'd sneered at my historical janitor work was now applying for retail positions at the same vintage shops she used to mock as trying too hard to seem authentic. 6 weeks after the gallery incident, Lucas Chun called me directly from San Francisco. Paul, I know this is awkward, but I need you to know the truth about what happened between Simone and me. His voice carried the careful tone of someone protecting themselves legally. Nothing physical happened. She made advances during the art fair, claiming you two had an open relationship, that you were emotionally unavailable and regressive. She said you were threatened by her success and held her back professionally. He paused before continuing. I almost believed her until I researched you. Found articles about your restoration work, saw photos of you two from before, realized she was lying about everything. When I rejected her advances, she became hostile, threatened to tell people I'd led her on. That's why she was so aggressive at her gallery opening, displaced anger at me, taken out on you. The final piece clicked into place. She also threatened to report me for sexual harassment last week, Lucas added. Claims I took advantage of her during a vulnerable time. I wanted you to know her pattern in case she tries something similar with you. After thanking Lucas and ending the call, I sat in my workshop staring at the Victorian molding I was restoring, thinking about patterns and cycles. My phone buzzed with messages from unknown numbers, Simone using borrowed phones, her desperation increasing with each text. Paul, I'm facing homelessness. My father says I have 10 days to find work or leave. Please, I need help. Another, I'll do anything. Public apology, therapy, complete accountability. I just need temporary financial support to get back on my feet. Then, you won. I'm working at Container Store starting Monday. $11 an hour. Are you satisfied? I considered her situation for 2 hours, remembering genuine moments from our 5 years, her excitement when I'd restored a particularly difficult piece, quiet mornings before she'd become obsessed with status, moments when she'd seem to actually see me as a person rather than a stepping stone. But then I remembered her calling me a pathetic loser, the contempt in her voice, the way 40 people had looked at me with pity while she destroyed everything we'd built. I typed my response carefully. The Container Store values spatial design and organization. Your background should help. They also promote from within if you show dedication. Good luck with everything, Simone. Her response was immediate and vicious. You've become vindictive and cold. This isn't who you were. I wrote back one final time. No, I'm just no longer your pathetic loser. Good luck with everything, Simone. Then I blocked the number and every other avenue of contact. 2 months after the gallery opening, Douglas called me directly. His voice sounded exhausted, defeated in a way that executive authority couldn't mask. Paul, I owe you an apology. Simone finally told me the truth about everything. The finances, Lucas, what she really said at the gallery. I watched all 7 videos. I'm disgusted and disappointed in how I raised her. He paused, clearly struggling. I enabled this. Always bailed her out, always believed her version of events, always assumed her failures were someone else's fault. You didn't deserve what she did to you. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I thanked him for calling, recognizing the courage it took for a man like Douglas to admit failure. Meanwhile, Cornerstone Heritage Restoration was exploding beyond my wildest dreams. The courthouse contract had attracted 5 additional municipal buildings, each requiring specialized restoration that commanded premium prices. I hired my first apprentice, a young woman named Casey who'd grown up in her grandfather's woodshop and had natural talent for seeing what structures could become. Standing in my workshop training Casey on proper mortise and tenon joints, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, genuine professional satisfaction unmarred by someone's constant criticism. 3 weeks later, I was loading reclaimed lumber at a building supply warehouse when I saw her. Simone was driving a damaged 2005 Subaru with mismatched panels, wearing the Container Store uniform I recognized from shopping there myself. She started walking toward me, then stopped when she saw my new truck, forest green Ford F-250 with Cornerstone Heritage Restoration, building on what endures, professionally lettered on the sides. Her face went through several expressions: surprise, anger, what looked like regret, before she turned and walked back to her Subaru without saying a word. Casey, who'd been helping load materials, noticed the interaction. "Someone you know?" "Someone I used to know," I replied, watching Simone's Subaru disappear into Portland traffic. "She taught me something valuable though." "What's that?" Casey asked, securing the lumber. "That when someone tells you you're not good enough, they're usually talking about themselves. And when they call you a loser in public, they're showing everyone exactly who they really are." That evening, I sat in my restored living room, looking at the exposed beams I'd personally refinished, surrounded by furniture that told stories instead of making statements, and realized something profound. Simone had been right about one thing: I wasn't marriage material for someone like her. Thank God for that. The gallery disaster she'd orchestrated to destroy me had instead revealed everything I needed to see, freed me from a future of financing someone else's fantasies while being told I wasn't enough. Now I was building something real with people who valued what I created, not what I could provide. Sometimes the best thing someone can do is show you exactly who they are in front of witnesses. Simone had given me that gift, and I was finally grateful for it.